Retired Major George Filer, US Air Force, Disclosure Project witness, and host of Filer's Files. Welcome and thank you very much for this interview.
Well, thanks for having me.
First of all, I'd like to start off by hearing a little bit about your background, military background, and your professional background.
Right. Well, I spent 20 years in the Air Force as an intelligence officer and flyer with some 5,000 hours, and went to Bradley University to get my undergraduate degree, and then went on to Central Michigan University for business administration master's degree. Then we have the problem of is being visited by aliens who I think that are worried about us destroying it, so to speak, through nuclear warfare, through not caring for the environment, our various tribal wars, so to speak. We have to grow up spiritually and physically in many ways, to make a better world.
How have you used your military status and security clearances to extract this information about UFOs?
Well, how I found out, you might say, in the military about UFOs is I was flying tankers over England, and we had a tanker up each night to put the fighters to bed, as we called it, because the fog would roll into England and the fighters couldn't land. They had to go on to Spain or Germany when they needed refueling, so they used the tankers to the gas station in the air, so to speak. Well, London Control realized that we were up there each night and already airborne and so on with plenty of fuel, and they started calling us to intercept the UFOs. But in any case, had the radar on, and we got the object on radar, and what was interesting is that it was a huge radar return, and it was almost exactly the same radar return as the Firth of Forth Bridge in Scotland, which is one of the longest bridges in the world, about a mile long, and this object essentially matched that radar return, which would be a good indication of its actual size. And then as we got closer, we could see lights off in the distance, kind of like a cruise ship, with multiple lights on it at sea, of course, but this is in the air. And then when we got about a mile away from it, it went off into space, this huge craft. And a couple of weeks later, we're invited to a dining in with Prince Philip. And Prince Philip is very interested in UFOs. He's the husband of the Queen of England, and he has made it kind of a hobby of his to talk to the air crews that have chased UFOs. And we sat around the dinner table, and I told him my story, that pretty much just like you just heard, and the other air crews were telling their stories of similar type sightings. And I asked him why he believed, and he said that his uncle, the Earl Mountbatten, had seen them up close in India, and that frankly he believed his uncle as well as all the air crews that were seeing him, and he spoke about this publicly as well.
Have you managed to or thought about contacting any of the presidents?
Yeah, I did contact Ford through President Ford through a close contact. He gave me his let's say his home address, and I wrote him and asked him about UFOs, and he was prominent in 1966 of having a hearing about UFOs, and I asked him what he knew about them, and he said, well, wrote me a letter, which I have, that said he tried as a congressman to find out about UFOs and visitation, and as a vice president and as president, and frankly he was never told anything of value. Really, he was kept out of the loop, so to speak.
So what was the driving force that actually motivates you and pushed you into doing this really intense work that you do? Because I know you are occupied all day, every week, just updating these files and putting them out. What is it? What happened? Is it some reason that you're so committed?
Well, I feel it's a mission in life that I've been given.
Can you elaborate?
When I was 4 or 5 years old, I lived up in an apartment house which overlooked a park, and I would notice kind of like bees forming, or in any case an indication to me that UFOs were coming, and they would land in this park on a regular basis, and frankly they would bring me over and have them visit their UFO, and they were always very nice to me.
How did they bring you over?
They floated us over.
From your house?
Yes, I was with John Fitzgerald was one of my neighbors, and they would bring us over and show us the inside of the craft, which was kind of a brushed aluminum, almost like a kitchen, you know, with all the cabinets and everything, and kind of a place to eat and a place to control the craft from. And after first visitation, I would just meet with a beautiful blonde lady that would essentially give me instruction on the world and how when the aliens came here it would make it a better place. You might say a new Jerusalem, kind of like the Bible talks about, that we would have peace on earth and it would be a great place if we humans, so to speak, would grow up and stop fighting wars and would take care of the environment and well, handle the nuclear weapons properly.
Right.
And not use them, that kind of thing. She gave me lots of instruction and indicated that I had a mission to spread the word, so to speak, that they were here and they were not out to harm us in any way, and that we had to grow up so that we could join the, you might say, the galaxy of civilizations out in space.
And this was a human-looking extraterrestrial?
Yeah, beautiful-looking blonde woman, and I married a lady that looked very similar.
And were there any males on board the craft?
But the ones that I met initially were males.
And what did they look like?
Well, they were all very human-looking. The males looked like a normal human with a black flight suit and a hat, but he had a long face, so to speak. If you saw him in Walmart, you'd say, well, that's kind of an unusual looking guy, but at the same time you would probably think that he was human, you know.
So we have human extraterrestrials amongst us, in fact.
Well, I think that's quite likely that we did.
Because this is not the only case that I've heard, of course. How about, you said you were with somebody called Fitzgerald, your neighbor?
Yeah.
What, can you just elaborate on that?
Well, he was just a young boy about my same age, and we used to ride our tricycles up and down the sidewalk, and we happened to be together when we saw the UFO land.
And he was also taken on board?
Yes.
So the two of you were on board?
The two of us got the tour, so to speak.
And I'm very pleased that you're able to talk about this, because this is exactly the stimulus or the catalyst that the exopolitical movement needs from professional, credible people like yourself. And I have to say, thank you very much for this important information. It will go far and will do a lot of good to a lot of people, and perhaps those who are holding back will also release this important information. Thanks very, very much, Major Filer, for coming along to see us today
You're welcome.
for this interview. Appreciate it very, very much.